Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Game Junk Podcast, episode 210, recording on Monday, October 21st, 2024. My name is Frank.
My name is Sean.
And my name is Andrew.
And on this week's show, we'll be talking about the Xbox partner preview for October 2024 and a bunch of the announcements there. And probably a bit of what we played, including Neva and Metaphor ReFantazio, some new games. Been a while. We were off last week. How you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Feeling pretty refreshed, actually. I got to play some games, so that was nice.
All right. Well, before we get into the Xbox partner preview, there is one announcement we have to discuss first. Sean will not stop bringing this up.
It was a megaton, man. A megaton.
It was.
Twice in the last 10 minutes. We got to talk about that. I heard you the first time, Sean. We're going to talk about it. Don't worry about it.
You know what? Sometimes, Frank, you just aren't very cooperative. So I have to push it. I have to push my agenda.
Cooperative? All right. Sean needs us to weigh in on the big announcement from our week off. Nintendo Alarmo.
Oh, yeah.
The Nintendo alarm clock that was announced that, I watched the trailer for Alarmo, so they got me to do that much at least. I thought it was kind of interesting. I didn't buy it, but I'm not exactly in a purchasing mode right now. I've spent a lot of money on other stuff, but I could have seen myself buying Alarmo. I generally liked, but the idea I like the most is it rewards you for getting up. It recognizes that you've gotten up and it plays those iconic Nintendo sounds. But other than that, pretty expensive, $130 for a Nintendo alarm clock. Are either of you two interested? What are your takes? What are your takes since we have to weigh in on Alarmo?
Well, I guess I can say I'm not going to be buying it, but it's classic Nintendo. They just throw something weird out there and half the people are like, this makes no sense, but people will buy it. I mark my words, people will buy this thing.
Has it shipped yet? Like, are people talking about it or posting?
I think I've seen about it a few reviews, but
and what were the reviews like?
I haven't dove too deep into them. A lot of them are just talking about how there's, like annoying things like putting in your Wi-Fi password is super cumbersome. There's like a little dial you have to go through every letter and every.
Oh my god! Suck it up, people. This is Alarmo. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. $130, please. I ordered 4 of these babies. One for me, one for the wife, one for each kid. We're going to be Alarmoing all day, every day. What better way to wake up than with a Mario theme song? Come on, let's get real. You guys are ordering these. You have to.
I'm not, but I'll tell you what, it's probably better than any Google product I own. I would trade it in a heartbeat.
I mean, look at that thing.
Somebody at Nintendo was like, okay, Switch 2 is not coming out this year. We need something. Give us something. And the R&D team went to work, and this is what they came back with. And it's a nice little Nintendo brainwash item.
I'm a little disappointed,
John, that there's Nintendo brainwash for this, but for everything Nintendo does except for Zelda. Zelda's the one thing where there's no brainwash. Everything is legitimate.
That's right.
It deserves every ounce of praise it receives.
I agree.
I'm a little disappointed with the rating. It's like E for everyone and E10. Like you didn't. I don't know about that. I mean, you probably could have just put E. It's an alarm clock.
That might be dependent on, you can download future themes for the clock. Ooh. So there might be certain themes that are.
I really hope I have to pay for those. Like, I would not want to jip off Nintendo by not giving them an extra $5 for a Zelda themed alarm. Or even Pikmin, a Pikmin themed alarm. Can you imagine? I mean, I would lose my mind if there was a Pikmin themed alarm. I would pay
I believe
It's
that's
been announced, dude. It's
Oh, really?
one of the
You know what?
5.
I didn't even watch the trailer. I just bought it. I didn't even watch it. I didn't need to.
Well, I
It's so
can't
good.
believe out of the 5 games that it comes with, one of them is Ring Fit Adventure.
oh
Like,
yeah.
The
what?
classic.
That is so weird.
I'd say
But
the profit margin on this thing is somewhere between 500 and 600%.
but I think you have to have a Switch Online account to use it, right? Like, is that kind of how they're going to
I don't
justify giving you additional stuff?
I don't think so.
I thought so. Or maybe I saw something like about pre-ordering it, or like to get it first, you have to have it as
Yeah,
well.
I think
Maybe that was.
to order the controllers and other things, you have to do that through Nintendo Online. So
Oh yeah, it does say it's available from retail stores with no Switch Online membership required. So,
so get
but yeah, I mean, it's weird because I saw a lot of people saying like, "Oh, do you really want Nintendo stuff associated with waking up?" Like that, you're going to hate it. You're going to start to hate it. But I feel like kind of the opposite. You start your morning with something you like, you're good to go.
I must say, I don't know. I feel like it's incentivizing me to snooze it. I mean, if you don't get up right away, it's going to show you another little picture of like, hey, you're not quite up yet. And then you snooze it.
That's
And then
true.
it shows you
kind of
an
want to
additional
unlock
one.
all the stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. I want to see all the options that are coming at me. I almost want to stay in bed until it starts yelling at me, just so I get the full Alarmo experience. And I gotta see Bowser. I mean, if Bowser's going to be the like you snooze too long, I mean, I gotta see that. I mean, it says you did it at the end here. I'm reading the advertisement, and it's you did it. You got out of bed. Is that really a good thing? Like, I kind of want to stay in bed, pick up my Switch from the nightstand, and just keep going. Transfer right from one Nintendo product to the other. And I don't know. It seems obvious to me.
I definitely need something to help me get out of bed. So if
You're the target audience then.
people weigh in on Alarmo that it helps them get out of bed, I might have to pop on it. I wouldn't mind replacing my stupid Google Home, whatever it is. I hate that thing.
That's what you use to wake up currently?
Yeah.
I just assume most people use their phones. Like, that's the other weird thing. Like, is there a market for alarm clocks in general? I don't know. But
The only thing that would stop me from getting this or replacing it, I wish it had a white noise feature. If it had a white noise feature, I would buy it immediately.
The background sounds of the Mushroom Kingdom.
I don't.
just ambient noises. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
Nintendo could own white noise. They could do the best brown noise.
They will. They're going to watch this and they're going to add to Alarmo, guaranteed.
Well, we can only hope. I don't know what the mail is for. How do you? There's a mail icon on the screen, like your email or messages. I don't know what that is, but okay. Juiced Alarmo more than enough. We are moving on to the Xbox partner preview for October 2024. And we may go through this quickly, not going to lie, because there's not a ton of meat on this bone, but I think there's some things worth covering. First announcement was Alan Wake 2 Lake House DLC, which we already knew about. I don't think there's any need to talk about it.
You got to mention it, though, Frank. You got to mention it.
Well, it's mentioned.
Yep, I agree.
Okay. Next up, one of the bigger announcements, the new game from Bloober Team, which is called Chronos: The New Dawn, and had a mostly cinematic trailer with then some gameplay at the end of this kind of guy in a suit that looked
down a corridor.
Yeah, and then playing chess with someone, and
I thought you took the gameplay part.
Blood on the pieces, and it was a pretty interesting trailer. And I was like, this is fine. I just don't know what this game is. And then you got a little taste of gameplay at the end. So I thought it looked okay. Silent Hill 2 has kind of brought me over to Team Bloober from where I was before. So I'm mildly intrigued by this game. 2025, I believe it said it was released. So any thoughts from you guys?
My initial thought is I I liked the initial like atmosphere it was setting up, and the intrigue of like what is this weird stuff going on. Kind of I wouldn't say Death Stranding, but kind of in that same vein, like just weird stuff going on. Sort
Death
of.
Stranding's a good comparison.
Yeah. So I was like I was intrigued, but like you said, just the tiniest hint of gameplay, and it wasn't interesting at all. It was basically a corridor with, I don't know, zombie corpses or something stacked along the walls. Like, so nothing really grabbed me to say, yes, I want to play this, but I'll keep an eye on it. I'm open to, I like the name. The name implies something with some sort of time travel or something, but I'm interested.
The When the enemy spawns at the end of the gameplay, I'm like, okay, I just want to see what combat looks like. That's going to tell me about as much as I need to know. And then it cut right before you saw any of that. So like, okay,
Well,
I still don't know.
yeah.
I don't know what I think about
I'd
this.
imagine it's shooting with some melee combat.
And
Well,
they-
yeah, I mean,
Little Dead Space vibe, little
I definitely
what's
was
that other
going to
one?
say Dead Space
Yeah, that's
vibes.
true.
Like when he grabbed the gun, it kind of felt like it seemed like the gun from Dead Space. I was
Yeah.
like, but yeah, I'm kind of interested. I'm more interested than some of the other Bloober original stuff I've seen. So
Is there a Dead Space VR game?
I don't think so.
I feel like that would be a good franchise for VR.
Yeah, it
There
would be
was that
perfect
one-
for yeah. What's the big Oculus? Like, there's the two games that were really well reviewed, and I can't remember what they're called, but they're all about
Lone Echo?
Yeah, Lone Echo, right? Yeah, it would be perfect.
Is that Ready at Dawn? I think that's Ready at Dawn.
Yeah, it was.
I was just gonna say not VR, but first person. They did that shitty Dead Space game on the Wii that was like Extraction, I want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was
But-
an on-rail shooter. I think there was a
Yeah,
mobile
Unreal,
game
yeah.
too that was actually not bad at the time. But
Yeah. So there's some, some history with a first person sort of VR-ish perspective.
yeah.
All right, next up was Blind Fire, which I knew it wasn't this game because it's a partner showcase. It was looking a bit like, is this Perfect Dark or some gameplay from Perfect Dark? And it was pitched as like removing the light created this game. It's supposed to be a online shooter where they take light out of the equation. But when they said that, I'm like, all I remember from what the footage I just saw was like bright neon colors and light everywhere. So whatever that concept is did not play for me in the trailer, and I wasn't compelled enough to go back and rewatch it. Did you guys see something that I missed here? Or
I mean, it seemed like just enemies were invisible at certain points, which I don't know how you really make that work. But like the write-up on the Xbox website says you'll need to use tools, traps, and echolocation to seek out your targets.
so it's not a
Guess
multiplayer
maybe.
game. It's just a single player. It said it was an early access today, or open
I think
beta today. So I don't know. Is it like a horde kind of shooter extraction game?
I don't know, but I thought it was multiplayer to some degree. But
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was like an arena shooter thing. I don't know. The like neon light area, it just reminded me of like a laser tag places I've gone to where you play laser tag. And there is something about the characters. I wrote down Ghostwire Tokyo, but I don't think it was Ghostwire Tokyo. I think it was like one of those Ubisoft games that came out that kind of flopped. Like
It reminded me of the character
Ruiner,
Ghost Runner.
Ghost Runner. That's what it was, not Ghostwire
Yeah.
Tokyo. Ghost Runner. Yeah, it reminded me of like that exact same character. Even the Ruiner character kind of looks the same, like that sort of like shiny
has
face
a
shield thing.
cyberpunk kind of vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, it just felt so similar. So I don't know. Nothing about this looked interesting. I also thought it was some sort of like Perfect Dark-esque shooter thing in the beginning, and then it totally went a different direction. So not my cup of tea, I don't think.
It is online multiplayer matches up to 8 players at a time.
And it's early access on Steam as well. Right now, I just checked, and not sure if it's on PlayStation. Probably not. They really don't do early access, but that one game from the last state of play was going to have early access. So I'm not sure if they're opening up, but it's not on the store right now. Okay, moving on. Now, I was aware of this game already, even though I think this is the first official, or did Gamescom or Tokyo Game Show have an announcement for this game? Because when I sort pre-orders on PlayStation, I always like go to pre-orders and sort by release date. And this game's been on there for quite a while. And I was like, did I miss something for this? But Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. And
that was Gamescom, I believe.
Maybe Huck, you seem to be the biggest Yakuza fan here. So
I have played one Yakuza game to completion. So yes, I would say I am. I've seen this before. I don't recall where, but I don't know if they showed any of the like ship battle parts, at least not in as much detail as they did here. Also looks like there's a big like customization thing of your boats going on. So I don't know if this is there's some sort of like online component to this game where, you know, it's like Skull and Bones, like an online multiplayer aspect to it where you're actually like showing off the ships you're customizing, because I don't imagine customization to this degree is really super popular if you just are a single player game. Seems like a multiplayer thing, but I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I just love Yakuza. Like they don't care. They just go off the rails with whatever they want. I mean, I think this is great. I don't think they're going to be able to top like Assassin's Creed ship combat, but you know, why not? Why not give it a try? It looked like they were doing more of like a large scale action combat on the ship decks from what I saw. Whereas like the Yakuza games I've played have been more, you know, 1 versus 3 or 4 tops.
Yeah, that seems like more than that. And the most recent 2 games have been a turn-based thing, right? So
yes, that's what the Like a Dragon I think is.
Yeah. So this it's a totally different kind of vibe, and I'm not sure if the character is.
He's from the he
okay.
is. Yeah, he's like one of the most popular characters in the franchise, I would say.
Okay. I thought this looked really intriguing, and it might be the game that finally pulls me into this franchise. It looked so wacky, and the color palette and the combat looked kind of crazy. I was really impressed by what I saw for this game.
It's like this weird cross. Like the Yakuza games to me are like this weird juxtaposition of comedy and seriousness. And I think it always like the game I played just like struck the perfect note of like wackiness with seriousness. And I feel like this game's going to hit all that as well.
I mean, the weirder it gets, the more interested I am. And obviously it seems like this is maybe, you know, standalone. You don't need to have played any of the other games. It's probably a little shorter. Like all those things definitely make it more in my wheelhouse. But, you know, there's also a part of me that's like, how many pirate games do we need? Like, you know, we played Sea of Thieves again on the weekend, which was, you know, we had some fun, but I don't know, what's this going to do different? I don't know yet.
It doesn't feel like that much of a pirate game. And if anything, to me, it seems like people have wanted a version of Black Flag for a long time. And it's the closest to that style of gameplay where it's part ship combat and then part open world, third person action. So I think there's definitely a market for it. Okay. Next up, an update on a game we've seen quite a few times now, Mouse, PI for Hire. And out of all the previews we've seen, at this point, it felt like the most like a game to me, rather than just kind of demo reel, seeing some level traversal. And I feel like it was taking you through establishing a target, alligator or crocodile, I can't remember, and then tracking down the clues to find said reptile. And it had a little kind of narrative loop. I wasn't really understanding from a gameplay perspective how the detective stuff worked. Like, well, they took a picture of a hat, I think, and something else. I'm like, I don't know. Okay.
There was a case board in there, so you know Huck's interested.
Gotta get these case boards. The new mechanic.
How will I know what color the string is, though?
Yeah, that's true. We should make a game with sleeping mechanics, case boards, cooking, and stealth, and make the most boring game of all time.
That sounds great.
It's perfect. When are the companies going to learn? I'm still excited for this game. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for this game. It looks fun. I mean, I can't help but notice, like, I'm looking at the thumbnail for the trailer, and the character is like holding a cup of coffee. Like they're definitely trying to associate with Cuphead as much as they can, I think. So
I did not make that connection,
but yeah, I mean,
right.
Even Kieran saw the trailer and he was like, "Oh, what is this?" He was very interested. So I think they could have a hit on their hands just based on that association.
I think so too.
That's so funny that he was interested in it, because it's such like an old timey, whatever, 1920s, 1930s art style incorporated into a game, that he finds it interesting.
He just knew the Cuphead. He was like, "Oh, is this a Cuphead sequel? What is this?" So, but yeah, I mean, I'm hoping there's some kind of Who Framed Roger Rabbit kind of feel to it as well. So,
oh yeah, I thought it looked pretty cool. I mean, we've seen it before, but yeah.
Next
improved.
Up, one of the bigger announcements of the showcase, Subnautica 2 coming to Xbox Early Access in 2025. Really, I mean, it's a pre-rendered trailer, not a whole lot going on, probably what you'd expect from Subnautica, but anyone catch any interesting things in the trailer that I missed?
Well, I don't.
Not me. My older boy did, though. He is like deep in the Subnautica lore, and he was telling me all about there's some sort of like crazy twist in Below Zero that has like that character in this one, and he's like, "Oh, that big creature must be this thing," and all this stuff. I was like, okay, like I don't remember any of this, but he's like, he's like the type of kid who'll like play the game, or no, he'll watch YouTube videos about the game, then he'll play the game, then he'll watch YouTube videos about how to like min-max everything in the game, and then min-max it himself, and then go back and figure out how to do mods, and then he'll start modding stuff. So he's deep into the Subnautica land of that and Below Zero, and so he was pretty pumped, and he was upset when I told him it wouldn't be out for like another 6 months. He was like, "No, I want it now." Classic kid.
Well, so you played both of the previous games, right?
So I beat Subnautica, and then I played Below Zero. I don't think I beat Below Zero, but yeah, I really enjoy Subnautica. I'll still go back and play Subnautica 1 just because I find the building mechanics and how they drip in the story aspects of it. I just find it really perfectly paced, and how you slowly expand out from your kind of starting position. I really like it. I've tried other, crafting games, and I cannot get into them like I like Subnautica. So I don't know what it is about that team or that specific environment or just how they constructed the world, but I really like Subnautica a lot.
I tried it once, but it was in VR, and I was completely lost as to what I was supposed to do.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, you'd probably get pretty lost. Even it's one of those games where you play the first time and you kind of have no idea what you're doing. But I find in this game, they also give you like more help into finding like the blueprints and stuff along the way. And everything seems to kind of unlock in a natural way where it feels like you're finding it. But I have a feeling, there's kind of like some procedural aspect to help you out. Whereas like other games I've played, I walk around for the first hour and feel like I've done nothing. Whereas this game, you hop out, you immediately start grabbing random stuff, and it starts telling you stuff about it. So I would recommend trying it again, because then you go back and you kind of already have a little bit of remembered knowledge of like how to start off, and then you kind of can expand from there quicker. I don't know. I found on my third restart, I was able to just fly through the opening section because I just knew, the basic stuff, and then you're able to kind of progress quicker.
Yeah,
But yeah.
I know I've done this many times with many games, but it always rubs me the wrong way when it's like, oh, you just have to try it 3 times before. Uh,
Well, I'm
you
not sure. Yeah, I'm not saying you have to try it 3 times, but if you restart now, it will be a quicker to get in.
Sure,
That's what I'm saying, because
and
you've
I mean,
already got a low base level.
Returnal is one of my favorite games. It was that game was like that for me. Even Cuphead
Yeah.
and Hades to some degree. So maybe I should give it another poke. All right,
So,
next up.
so one other quick thing on
Oh,
that. I don't know if they showed it in the trailer, but the article says it has co-op. So that's a
okay.
big new thing.
Oh,
This.
well, and
So,
I guess we should talk about, I can't remember what was all on it now, but I noticed that it was saying Valve Corporation on
oh yeah,
the
right.
end, kind of like credit
Yes.
screen, which is very interesting because I haven't heard anything about. So the developer is Unknown Worlds, and I haven't heard anything about Valve acquiring Unknown Worlds, or I mean, maybe it's just a publishing deal, but Valve doesn't really stick their neck out on just anything usually. So they must be pretty excited about this project, I would think.
Could be related to a new Valve Index.
Perhaps.
Yeah, I
Who
saw
knows?
just Googling it, that does come up, I guess, because you can play the first game in VR, but I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. I don't see much else coming up.
Yeah.
And apparently, the first Subnautica games were made in Unreal. This one's made in Unreal 5.
No, sorry. First ones were made in Unity.
So, what did I
This
say?
one's, you said Unreal,
Oh, I was
Unreal 5.
okay. Yeah, sorry. I was reading and misspoke. Yes, I apologize. That is what I was reading
Yeah. So they
from
switched.
the Subnautica wiki. Okay. Next up, Animal Well, dropping on Xbox that day. It was like this weird gag talking about shadows, which I think is alluding to the fact that it was a shadow drop that it was releasing
Yeah.
that day. But that
Annoying.
little bit did not work for me.
Yeah, I know.
But
I was like, skip, skip.
But I don't think it was launching on Game Pass, right? It's just available for purchase on Xbox.
Yeah, I believe
think so.
that's correct. At the end, they showed which ones were on Game Pass, and I think
Yeah,
there was
and it
only
wasn't
like
them.
4 or 5 games.
Next up, another game I have very little to say about, Eden's Zero, kind of a anime unpolished game. Apparently,
Yeah.
creators is a big deal, but it meant nothing to me. I thought this looked pretty weak.
I thought every gameplay section they showed looked extremely sparse, almost like it was running on, like a last gen console. And it seemed like everything was just, flat floors with flat walls and then like 2 or 3 enemies. And then they would show the cutscenes, which seemed to have more detail, but every little gameplay snip I saw was just so bland.
When I see games like this now, especially after the last state of play, I think, oh, is this a mobile game already or something like that? So,
Yeah,
if
maybe.
that's the case. Sean, anything you want to add?
No, nothing really to say. I don't believe it is a mobile game, but
Based on a manga and animated series, so probably has an audience somewhere. Next up, Eternal Strands, which was kind of a third-person RPG. I can't tell if it's online or persistent world or not, but it seemed like their hook was using the environment, fire, ice, physics to the tag was the world is your weapon. I don't know. It looked, some of the enemy designs were interesting, but it looked a little generic to me. Didn't really grab me. Do you guys have any thoughts?
yeah, not really. I mean, there was a couple of games in here that definitely seemed like Souls-like-ish. This one is a little more colorful. I don't remember like big boss fights, I think, but not much else is coming back to
Yeah.
me.
Looks like there's like some telekinesis power on top of kind of like fire and ice. But there was one thing I just noticed while rewatching the trailer. At the bottom, it said it's a mix of in-game and in-engine footage. And to me, those are the same thing. I don't know. I've never heard it referred to it like that in game and in engine. Has anyone heard that distinction before?
Maybe they just mean like some is gameplay and some is not gameplay, but it's in engine.
Yeah, I guess so.
It is confusing.
I've heard of like, CG and in engine or like, I don't know, not captured on console, like some on console, some on PC, but I've never heard it referred to them at the same time in game and in engine, because the engine is part of the game and the game is run on the engine.
Yeah, it's
so
weird. Maybe I don't quite understand. Some was on because it was an Xbox showcase, some was on console, but there's Xbox platforms on PC, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe that's what they're trying to say.
Next up, Mistfall Hunter, which is another third-person action game, which I thought looked pretty decent for the most part. Had a pretty competent art style, looked good. I got more intrigued by this game at the end, where the narrator said something like, this game is a combination of Souls-like and Extraction, which didn't really present itself in the footage that I saw, but I felt like, well, that could be an interesting combo. But that's about it for me. Don't have much else to say.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember thinking, what does that mean? How would that work? I don't know, but it looked okay, but I am getting a little tired. As much as I'm tired of the Souls-like mechanics, also that kind of just grim, kind of not washed out, but like desaturated art style. I feel like I see it a lot now. Doesn't do that much for me.
I thought some of the hair and on the big enemies looked kind of good, but other than that, that's one thing I'll say. A lot of these games we'd seen before, and I'll say this for the next game we talk about too. I did not remember the titles of any of them. So like for games that except for Mouse, I remember the title for. So big naming epidemic for games and coming up with games.
Yeah, it's
you
tough,
remember and stick out. And I think the titles have a big part of that.
Yep.
All right. Speaking of which, Wheel World. This game should be called Ghost Bike or something. I don't know. There's like
I think it used to be called something different.
It was called Ghost Bike. That was the original title. Yeah. I was just gonna say
that stuck. And I'm like, Wheel World.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like, it's weird because the trailer presents it as just kind of a biking game, and then like right at the end, the music changes a little bit, and you get that slight hint of the supernatural stuff. And it's like, what are they doing? Like the whole kind of identity of this game was something else, and then they changed the title and like go in a different direction. I don't get it.
I wonder why they changed the name. Maybe because there's a brand of bikes called Ghost Bikes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
They definitely should have
Wheeled Warriors. That could have been something good.
Yeah, that Wheel World. Talk about a forget-filled name. Like, who's going to remember that? Who's going to remember this game is named that?
Yeah,
Wheel World.
Yeah,
that almost implies to me like you should have a world made of wheels, and that's it.
Yeah,
you're on a bike.
Customization looked kind of crazy, and like the bike riding itself looked pretty solid. The only bike riding stuff I can think of is Bully, San Andreas, and a bit in Spider-Man 2. So,
yeah.
Well, what's that? What's that like?
Trials?
Physics game, Trials.
Yeah, that's like 2D
motorbikes.
Yeah, and I guess that I never played Seasons. I think Seasons had bike riding too, but anyway, could be cool, but bad title. Next, Phasmophobia coming to Xbox. I thought I would have assumed it was already out on like everything. This was like a surprise. Phasmophobia is only on PC right now. I had no idea.
Yeah, wasn't it a big hit on Steam like 2 years ago or whatever?
Yeah, I think it was in early access for a long time. So just now they're starting to get to consoles, I guess. But yeah, a lot of people play it.
Should have
Mhm.
called me. Would have had it out earlier.
Next up, this game I had not heard of before, The Legend of Babu, which is like a kid on a dog, third person action adventure game. I don't know. It looked okay. It didn't really hook me.
Yeah, it
A
looked
little
okay.
generic.
Yeah, it just like there's moments where I was like, oh, what is this? I'm kind of interested, but then I don't know, it just needed a little something. Just was missing something. I don't know.
Yeah, it reminds me of what was the PlayStation exclusive one where it was like the girl and there was a lot of like blue flames. It was made by like an animation heavy studio. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Oh,
Planet of Lana?
uh,
No, no, it's third person like action game.
I can
Uh,
picture the cover, but I can't remember the name.
yeah. Anyways, it reminded me of that game. Um, it kind of flopped. I'm sure you bought it, Frank. um,
I think Frank
oh
liked it,
gosh,
if I remember correctly.
yeah.
I have
Anyways,
no idea what game you're talking about. What?
it,
What?
it came out like a year ago. It was
Oh my
they had
God.
like black little like furry creatures
Oh,
that you were
yes.
losing your mind about for a
Uh,
while.
Kenna, Bridge,
Kenna, yeah, Bridge of Spirits.
Bridge
Sorry,
of Spirits. Yeah.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, it reminded me of that game to a little bit of degree, but maybe just because of the character and the creature, I'm not sure. But looks like a little like chow chow dog type thing. I don't know.
I think another issue for me and why some of these things look generic is I'm always asking myself, what genre is this? Like, is it, and what's a comparable game? And no one talks over these trailers or says anything about the game. And uh, whatever footage they pick, I mean, it could be a online game. It could be something that's also on mobile. That's like microtransaction based. Like they don't say enough. Before a trailer would have like title cards in between that kind of explain a bit more about the game. And lately, it's just kind of left to the viewer to interpret what type of game it is. And I want more details. So
Yeah,
looks okay though.
it's an action adventure, according to Xbox Wire.
That would be my guess, but it's a lot of competition there. I'm seeing some gifs on Steam and looking a little choppy here, a little jank. So we'll see how it turns out. Next up, a game I believe we've seen before: Wu Chang Fallen Feathers. Uh, Yet another, fantasy uh, Eastern game. Still thought it looked pretty decent.
Yeah, I don't
I'm
know what
intrigued by it.
I don't know if I'd seen it before. I probably have. They're all blending together, but it definitely reminded me of Kanitsugami, that like art style and kind of like the weirdness from that game. I never not the gameplay, just the art style
Okay.
and kind of like some of the creatures. But yeah, it also has like kind of the weirdness of Elden Ring, that sort of weird creature proportions and that kind of stuff. So yet another game I will not pick up, but I think looks good. I mean, if people like this game, I think it would. Sorry, if people like this style of game, I think it would be one they should be interested in.
Yeah, I thought the one boss with like an Arctic fox, and then the human would disappear, and it was like this levitating head. I thought there was some compelling boss elements there. I don't know. It's my kind of game. I got to get back to Black Myth because I was playing that a few weeks ago, but and I was enjoying it. So I'm down for these types of games.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not for me. I believe this one is coming to Game Pass, so maybe I'll give it a
Yeah,
poke.
that's
But
true. And then lastly, probably one of the bigger surprise announcements of the show, FBC Firebreak, which is a multiplayer game based on the world of Control, developed by Remedy. And I don't know, will this online game take me? I'm not a fan of Control, but I didn't like hate Control, and the things I liked about Control were the shooting mechanics and those kind of elements. It was more level design and map and user experience that drove me crazy in Control. So I could see this game being pretty good if it's just focused on something. I think they do tech really well, and I think they do mechanics really well. So I think they're kind of suited for a multiplayer game.
The weird thing about this one for me is like it almost felt like they were trying to do Control, but then some designer over here said, you know, it'd be cool. Let's put in some elements from Splatoon and like spray paint around. And then some other designer is like, yeah, let's also make it look like oh gosh, I'm blanking on what's the Valve shooter that's like this?
Team Fortress.
Oh, Team Fortress, yeah. Give it like some of the characters more like Team Fortress vibes. Like, isn't there a Team Fortress character that's like this firefighter guy? Anyways, I don't know. It just seems like a weird mashup of like things. Like you're in Control, which is like Control's universe, which is very grounded, and then you have these like firefighter dudes shooting paint out of their cannons. Like it seems bizarre, the matchup.
I don't know if I would agree that Control is grounded. I mean, it's like a universe where anything can go, right? Like it's kind of just weird and out there. So
I guess I think of it more like paranormal or like mind bending and like weird geometry, not like I'm going to throw Splatoon paint all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, I don't disagree that Sean had mentioned to me. I was like, was there anything big at this showcase? And he said there's a Control multiplayer game. What I pictured in my mind for a Control multiplayer game was nothing close to this.
Yeah.
And if they didn't say it was Control and made by Remedy, I would have no idea. It's like a super bright color palette and almost cartoony looking.
Yeah.
It does not remind me of Control at all.
Yeah. So it's very strange. I believe it is a 3-player cooperative game, so I don't think it's player versus player. I assume it's like PvE.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I like Control a fair bit. I like the universe and the world. So, I mean, I'm very curious to see what this could be. I would like it personally if there was more story elements in it. I don't know if that's what it's going to be, but I guess we'll see.
Okay. I think that's it for the Xbox Partner Showcase or Partner Preview for October 2024. Shall we give this a letter grade?
Sure.
I will give it a C-.
You have to.
Yeah, I was thinking
close to a C
as well.
It's only because I've heard of so many of these games before. There was very little new stuff, but some things did look pretty good.
I'm gonna go C+. I liked the Subnautica 2 tease, I think, the most out of anybody. So I think that's gonna pull it up for me. But a lot of the other stuff did not appeal to me very much at all.
Okay. All right. Moving on to what we played. Sean, anything you'd like to lead with here?
Well, should we talk about Neva and Gris?
Sure.
Because it kind of went hand in hand. So Neva came out like a week or two ago, I guess, or like
it was just last week.
Yeah, since the last time we recorded. And I hadn't really played Gris before. I don't know.
Huck did, I know. I also I played through it all yesterday.
Yeah, so like I had like played maybe 10 minutes of it and I was like, oh, it's such a nice looking game, but like didn't seem like there was much there. But then I was like, okay, I'll go back and give it another shot. And I actually really enjoyed it. I got into it and I guess there was just more of a puzzle element to it than I thought there would be. And so I like that. Like there's just a lot of like you're not always sure where you're supposed to go, but like somehow you still end up mostly figuring out where you need to go. And, there was enough interesting mechanics thrown in throughout, the 3-hour runtime or whatever it is that, yeah, I had a pretty good time with it. Again, it is a gorgeous looking game. So I really enjoyed that. Frank, what was your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I agree for the most part. It is a little slow, but I think the presentation is the thing that impresses me the most, specifically music. So both games we're going to talk about, the music was done by Berlinist. I'm not sure who that is, but I love the music and atmosphere. And I played the PS5 versions of both, and they're really similar and use the speaker on the Dual Sense controller pretty effectively as well. So I thought it visually way better than I thought. Like I had seen screenshots, and it definitely impresses more in motion. Like it's all about the animation, and I thought it was a pretty good game for sure. It was nice and short, like kind of got the themes and what it was about by the end. It wasn't too abstract for me, but I did. There was the last area of Gris I found to be a little confusing. Like I ended up triple tracking into one area and getting stuck there, and I had to go through the whole thing again. I was like, okay, I'm. It was the only part of the game where I felt kind of lost and not sure what to do. So that's pretty good for like an entire game to only have one area that I struggled with or thought was particularly frustrating. But
Yeah, and
I was
for a game that doesn't really tell you
yeah, that's true.
explicitly what to do, you just kind of go on vibe. But I agree. The end was the only thing I kind of had to look up a little bit. Like, what am I missing here? So
I did not look up anything. I just want to go on the record. But Huck, you had played this. You liked it, right?
Yeah, I did. I don't recall if I ended up beating it or not, but I did enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like the cinematics, the ones that exist outside of the story, and I love both games do this so far. 2D games that play with scale, like really pull the camera out or zoom the camera in. I don't think 2D games do that enough. So they do a lot of that in these games. So I was 100% in for that.
yeah, I agree. And I guess just to jump into Neva, for some people, I think one of the complaints with Gris is that it is. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a walking simulator. Like you got to figure stuff out, but there's no real combat in the game. This does add combat, and you're kind of this girl with a dog or wolf that's kind of your companion, and it's kind of a little more simplistic than I thought, at least from what I've seen so far. Like it's a platformer with some basic kind of hack and slash combat, and then
But in
there's
doubt, add an attack on square and a dash on circle, and you're good to go. It's like
yeah,
the standard 2D combat these days.
and yeah, like it feels fine, but it's just like compared to the previous game, I was expecting maybe more of the puzzle stuff, but it actually reminded me a lot of Planet of Lana, because that game also has like a companion thing, and it does the kind of pull out and push in on 2D stuff. And it just, yeah, there's definitely some things that reminded me of like also the being able to call your companion over to you kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, visually, I think is a little more impressive from what I've seen so far, but I'm enjoying it. So, and I think it's another short-ish game, so I'm
Yeah,
down for that.
Neva goes for it's a less detailed art style. It's almost like a simple painting in a lot of ways, but I still really like it, and I do love your creature Neva, and I'm kind of seeing where that's going, and I'm enjoying it. So definitely, I watched The Wild Robot on the weekend, and it's also some similar ideas and themes to The Wild Robot. So I'm
Hmm.
I'm digging it. I'm liking it more than Gris, I think. So
Yeah,
having that combat there, the puzzles are a little more involved and use the combat mechanics so far. So I'm only probably a third of the way in, and I'm curious to see how it goes from there. But yeah, glad to check out both of these. All right, Huck City,
Cool.
what you got?
I played a few games, but I really just dabbled. So I just get a quick hit a couple. I tried Indika, which has a pretty distinctive cover art. It's
I know this now.
it's sort of like a woman surrounded by a bunch of um, nuns with like halos over their head, and the setting of this game is kind of bizarre. You're in like this very um, Arctic. I don't know if it's Arctic or just winter, but you're in like a monastery, and you're being basically like not beat down physically, but like verbally put down constantly, like in the opening of the game. And it's also got this like bizarre integration of pixel art occasionally that is really like odd. And I don't know, I don't get it. It's like very oddly placed. Like some of the UI is pixel art, and then there are little like cutscene things that are pixel art also, and I have no idea how they connect. So you kind of just start by like doing these simple tasks, and it's like go get something from person A. Okay, I'll go do that. And then the next thing is like go get water from the fountain or from the well. I'm like, okay. So you literally have to walk up to the well, do this like hand crank thing, which is super slow and cumbersome, crank it down, crank it back up. You get the water, you walk back to the thing. It's like, okay, do it 4 more times.
Sounds like this would be good on the play date.
I don't know. Yeah. So that's like, do it 4 more times. I'm like, okay, something must happen while I'm doing this. So I go and I crank it like 3 more times. And then I'm like, no, I'm not cranking it the 5th time. I'm done. Like this is the end of this game. So that's where I stopped. I was like, I'm not cranking this well a 5th time. If this is the game, like I understand that this is like the monotony and like they're probably trying to make a statement, but it's also a game, and I'm not in for that right now. So that was my end of Indika. I made it about 10 or 15 minutes in.
Go on, man. One more crank and something probably would happen.
It's possible. I don't know. I'll have to watch a YouTube video or something to find out. Anyway, I will not be spending my time cranking a well. So I don't know.
Zelda, and then it'll be amazing. Whatever.
You know what? I didn't think of that. I should have done that. Yeah, in hindsight. But I don't know. The setting is very interesting, and obviously like the story they're trying to tell, and like I can feel the like, I don't know what religion it is, but like the Catholic guilt, like being hovering over top of this woman that you're playing as. So it's definitely interesting, but the game was not there for me. So maybe I'll watch a 2 to 3x time YouTube video and see what happens in this game. And just quickly, I for some reason had an inkling to try a Far Cry game. So I loaded up Far Cry 5, and I know all Far Cry games are the same. So I figured anyone I try is going to be good. The first like hour of this game had me bought in 100%. It's like setting up this whole cult thing in like the American Midwest or whatever. You're like some, police officer coming in to take him down. You kind of get shit goes bad. All of a sudden you're kind of running away. I'm like, okay, I'm bought in. And then they finally like let you free after that opening hour. And it's just like a typical Ubisoft checkbox game. Like there's literally no hand holding. It's like, here are the 4 things you do to unlock the island. And it's like rescue people, destroy these things. I'm like, really? You're just going to like drop this on me and then just say, go find this shit. So right there, I was like, okay, I'm done. Like I did like the first one or the first 2, and it literally was just like a bunch of little side quests like that were not that interesting. And I don't know, that's just not the type of game I want to play. So I really liked the opening hour, and then completely fell off a cliff immediately for me. I don't know if either of you guys have played that game, but that's not the type of game I want to spend my time playing anymore.
I did play it a bit. I really like Far Cry Primal. I don't know why. That's the one I played the most. Probably because there's like it's more hunting based. But really, the sequel or the new Far Cry game to play is Avatar: Frontiers of
Yeah,
Pandora.
that's true.
I watched Wave Water on the weekend. I'm like, I gotta get back to Pandora for R&R.
Oh yeah. I actually had the same experience as you though, Huck, with Far Cry 5. I liked the premise. I played a little bit of it, and then once it opened up, I mean, I wasn't like shut it down. I'm not interested, but I just kind of never really went back. And I have been wanting to try co-op because I feel like that would make it a little more fun.
Maybe.
But
Yeah, I did like, 3 or 4 of the like little side things nearest you. And I'm just like, there's like no one's telling me anything. I'm basically just wandering this island, killing people and rescuing random dudes. So I don't know. Not my cup of tea for sure.
All right, next up, I played Metaphor ReFantazio. I think Sean played the demo as well, or some of it.
yep.
I've never really gotten into a Persona game before, so this is basically a Persona game in a fantasy setting, and I'd been hearing good things. I am really enjoying it so far. I'm just kind of scratching the surface of the time management aspect of deciding how to use a day. Everything I've done so far has kind of been on rails story wise. And I do really like the presentation, the menus, the combat, all that stuff is working for me. The story is getting like a little like repetitive, which I don't mind in some ways because like learning names and lore, I always find to be kind of a roadblock for me playing these games. But I feel like I understand the world I'm in and the names of people and things and races. And so that's a win for an RPG for me if I know those. And I'm like, can think and know things about characters without having to read about them. I think that's interesting. But at the same time, like the whole idea of the game is like leaning on discrimination, and it comes up every 10 seconds. Like your little fairy reminds you, try to ignore that. Or like it's like, yeah, I know what this game's about. You don't need to remind me every 5 minutes. It's like God of
Yeah,
War almost. It's like, okay, just let the gameplay or the game speak for itself a little bit. It's a little too heavy-handed with its messaging.
yeah, I've heard that too. Like I actually was kind of interested in that, like the political angle, because so many games now, like they don't even want to touch stuff like that. They're like, nope, we have no political stance. We don't want to talk about anything.
It's not that
So
bad. Like it's a pretty, I wouldn't say that's political. It's kind of a generic, like discrimination is bad.
well, yeah, but like I don't know. I heard there was more to it than that. I don't
We'll
actually
see.
know,
Maybe
but
I'm still like only 6 or 7 hours in, so maybe. But at this point, it's like it keeps telling me the same things over and over again.
yeah, I could see that being a problem. I mean, the monsters, from what I can tell, are called humans.
Mhm.
So I feel like there's some built-in message there too. But
Yeah, I agree. And they have like these grotesque designs, which are like they're not really appealing but interesting, which I
yeah,
find kind of cool.
yeah. But I mean, I didn't really play it that much. But like I had never played a Persona game before. But I was curious, and I was actually pretty impressed. Like visually, like the presentation, the UI, all that stuff. Like it's got a really cool look to it that really drew me in. And I'm kind of like I could I'm kind of on board. I kind of want to play this game, but then like I check how long to beat and it's like 65 hours and I'm like, "Oh my God, like I'm never going to play this game." So, I don't know. I don't know if I will pick it up. Probably not, but I did really like what I saw so far. Um, Maybe I should just go play Persona one of these days, but I
Well,
don't
I'm
know.
gonna just add between this game, dipping back into Red Dead Online with the start button, accessing the map, and the Sea of Thieves having to look up maps. Can we just put maps on the touchpad for every game, please? Like how is this hard to figure out? It's the most convenient. It's the thing you check the most. Can we all just agree the map should be on the touchpad?
The Xbox controller doesn't have a text pad.
Or then
What
the
am I
back,
supposed to
well,
do?
back button on Xbox, and it's their loss. That's fine. But oh my God, Red Dead's the biggest offender of having to press start and then pick the map every time. I don't know if they're doing that on purpose because they have to load the map and they like they're using that kind of buffer of going to the pause menu to load the map. It's infuriating. All right,
Yeah.
that's rant over.
Um, so I'll just quickly mention, like, I played a bunch of Steam Next Fest demos, and not a lot of them really grabbed me. Like I've tried a few of the ones people were talking about. Like I tried Windblown, which I think is from
People
some of the
who worked on
developers of
Hades, right? Or no, Dead
I think
Cells.
Dead Cells, yeah. And it was kind of cool. Like like it's kind of a roguelike, and you're on these little, it seemed like kind of like islands in the sky or something. But like the thing that stood out to me is you have this dash mechanic, which like very quickly kind of propels you across gaps or up higher. And so you can kind of use that either with combat or just moving around to move very quickly. So it had a really good feel, and the pace of it was very quick. So I like that about it. But I mean, I was starting to get already kind of the roguelike, um, the runs and like what you're trying to do. And it didn't really grab me, but
It's
I don't know.
co-op, isn't it? I remember seeing like, or is it just multiple playable characters?
It might be co-op. That I don't know if the demo was
Oh,
co-op,
yeah,
but
it
I
says
think I read
one to
that.
three players.
Yeah, so I don't know, but out of the stuff I played, the ones that I kind of liked, I played a game called "Is This Game Trying to Kill Me?" Which I guess I'm feeling like the title is kind of like "There Is No Game." I feel like that's kind of what they're going for, but it reminded me a little bit of that. What was that game where there's like the 2D and the 3D, and you switch between them? It hasn't come out
Inscription.
yet.
It looks exactly like Inscription.
Well, there is definitely an Inscription vibe as well. But the idea is you're kind of like in this room in 3D, and you're moving around and interacting with objects, kind of like an escape room, I guess. But then there's a computer in the room, and you go on the computer and you play a game that's like a 2D game, or so things you're interacting with in the game are affected by what's around you in the room. So you're kind of jumping back and forth between these two
Like, are you talking
perspectives.
about the recent game we saw where you're playing on like the
Yeah,
console?
yeah, like Screenbound, is that what it was called?
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, it's not a direct comparison, but just the 2D to 3D thing. It's more of a puzzle game, but it was kind of cool. I was digging that. And then the other one that I really liked was Jackbox Survey Scramble, which is like they already put out the
Family is a Family Feud.
basically, yeah, like so they already put out like the Naughty Pack or whatever it was called. I haven't played that or picked it up yet, but this
Sure, you haven't.
I probably will at some point. But we actually play Jackbox a lot as a family, and so I was like, oh, we should try this demo out. And it is very Family Feud inspired, but they'll give you a question like, name toppings on a sandwich. What do people like on a sandwich? And you gotta start by trying to pick like the top picks, like the top two or three or whatever, and then you gotta try and pick the bottom picks out of like 150 choices. So it's like, what is something that somebody would have had on the survey, but is at the very bottom of the list? Like it's kind of a hard thing to try and figure out.
It's like a reverse Family Feud.
Yeah. But then there's other game modes as well. Like there were only two in the demo, but the other one was like this grid-based thing where it's like, if there's 150 answers, there's like nine squares, and you kind of do like a tic-tac-toe, capture three of the squares by getting like, something from 1 to 30, something from 90 to 120, so I don't know. It's just an interesting twist on it. And it's nothing amazing or mind blowing, but it was pretty fun. So I'll probably pick that up. I think it comes out like next week or
Thursday.
this week.
Yep.
So, but yeah, that's about it. I mean, there's lots of other stuff that's still up there, but from what I played, nothing was really grabbing me.
I I grabbed Visions of Mana out of the library, and man, there's so many cutscenes in the beginning. I just skipped them all, and then I went back and I watched the YouTube of them afterwards. And let me tell you, I missed nothing by skipping them the first time. Um, this game has like a weird, so it's like a typical kind of like Secret of Mana style 3D action. Um, and the action's fine, the combat's fine, but the overworld traversal, you have a jump, and you can like jump up into really weird spots, and it doesn't seem to even try to gate you at all. So you can get sort of like off the main path, and you're traveling like on top of essentially like mountains. There's nothing up there for you to do. It's very bizarre how they let you just kind of go wherever. And then also you kind of are walk down the opening kind of tutorial area is very linear, and then you go to a town. Once you leave the town, it's in this very open world space, but it's bizarre because the opening area is a little linear, and then it just goes wide, and the path to get to where you need to go is pretty straightforward, but there's so much stuff off to the side that you don't even have to go to, but it's like there's stuff over there. So it's kind of bizarre. Like normally I think if you designed a like semi open world map, you would kind of make the main path weave through most of the stuff so that you would be able to like just go off on little offshoots along the way. But this is like, I'm going to have the main path run along the north face of the map, and then everything in the south you can explore on your own if you want to. It's kind of bizarre. And it's huge. Like the map is really big from where you have to go. Now, I don't know if you need to come back later and then retraverse this area again, but it seemed like a bizarre sort of like opening map to introduce the player to. So I was not really interested in exploring that early after not really knowing any of the mechanics. And they try to introduce you to this like weird, almost like side quest where you have to like collect these like honey balls or something like that. And I'm like, I don't know what this is for. I don't know I don't know what I'm doing. So I don't know. The combat itself was not strong enough to keep me wanting to do it. I like the art style. I had high hopes for this game, but I don't think I'm gonna play it anymore. And yeah, it's too bad. I had high hopes for this game, thinking it would be good. Also, it's only single player, which I totally thought it was multiplayer. So that threw me off. And yeah, that was kind of the nail in the coffin. Once I realized I couldn't play with the kids, I'm kind of like, well, I'm not really enjoying it by myself. I'm not going to spend. And plus, I look at how long to beat, and it's like 80 hours or whatever. I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to. There's no way. So
Yeah.
I put that one down. I'm not going to return to it. One more quick one I did. I played a game which I think bought in early access a long time ago. Never played it. It's a game called Pixel Noir, and it's like a 2D isometric pixel art game, and you play as a detective guy in my usual fashion, and but it kind of more reminds me of like Police Quest in that you kind of like the opening area is you walking around the police station practicing your shooting. In this case, the shooting is like a turn-based, timing-based action game.
It's got like
not action game.
JRPG is one of the tags.
Yeah. So it's got like the Child of Light sort of like time bar, and then you make a move. So it's like there's some speed aspects to it. Kind of reminds me of that, except I haven't got to the point where so far the combat's very basic. I'm probably about a third of the way through the game, and there's no sort of mechanic I can tell to disrupt the timing of your enemies. Like in Child of the Light, I remember you being able to kind of disrupt characters so they would go later in the time sequence so there was like some strategy into like which characters you attack. I haven't seen that in this game yet. I think that so far it looks like they just kind of like that mechanic and did it for some reason. There's no design behind it. And there is also a Mario RPG sort of like timing, like perfect timing hit. So you get extra bonus damage if you press the button at the right time or if you defend, kind of like Sea of Stars also. If you hit or defend at the right time, you get like a buff, essentially. You could tell it's definitely sort of like a smaller indie studio. The tutorialization's like a little rough. They have like a ton of menu options, but nothing really to do in them at the beginning. And the map is pretty weak, pretty basic, which is fine. But there's like a goofy sort of humor to it that I'm enjoying. And it's a little like kind of over the top, weird, like just like a goofy story. Like there's like, you know, some sort of like psychoactive product people are ingesting by accident, and it's causing them to see hallucinations of like tentacle people, but you don't really know if it's like really a hallucination or if it's like aliens invading. And there's like all this like weird, you know, I see ghosts and stuff like that. There's like a lot of like weird supernatural, almost like a Ghostbusters vibe, where there's like some comedic with the paranormal kind of stuff. So I'm kind of enjoying it, but it's not like a super polished game. It's like a fun little indie game I'm enjoying.
It's got mixed reviews on Steam, so it's usually not.
Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily highly recommend it, but I'm enjoying it for what it is so far.
It does remind me, I should go back to Child of Light at some point. That was a really good game. I remember I never finished it, but I was really liking it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else from anyone? That's it for me.
No, I think that's it for now.
Okay. That'll do it for this week's show. Not a ton of releases this week, except for maybe a Survey Scramble, Call of Duty.
Call of Duty, yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to pick it up yet. I might as well just play it on Game Pass. We'll see.
You gotta play it on Game Pass.
You gotta buy it on PlayStation, obviously.
I'll probably buy it. I always end up buying it. So maybe we'll have some thoughts on that. And who knows what Megatons will drop this week. But you can watch us on youtube.com/GameJunk. Discord links are there as well. And until next time, thanks for listening or watching. Bye-bye.